Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into your Arkansas football recruiting report with Otis Kirk. As always, that's Otis Kirk. I'm Evan Kamiko. Otis, it is a pleasure to be with you on a Sunday. I feel like it's been a while since me and you have talked after an
Yeah.
Arkansas football win. So we're going to chat about that in just a little bit, but let's start with your bread and butter, the recruits that are coming in. We've got 4 in-state guys we got to get to first to give everyone a little bit of an update on them. Carius Kern, Omarion Robinson, Montario Elston, and Marcus Wimberly. What do you got on these guys? What can you let everybody at home know about them?
Yeah. Well, not good news. Right now, the question I'm getting more than anything else, because Arkansas's got like 22 commitments, I believe it is. I'm talking about 2025 class now. We're talking about 2025 today,
Right.
just 2025. And I keep getting people to ask me how many, who could flip to Arkansas? Because Arkansas is 5-3. They've got a chance to. They're obviously probably very likely going to a bowl game and could exceed that, really. I mean, they could get. I predicted 8 wins in preseason. I'd feel really good if my prediction of Ark beating Oklahoma State had come true. I'd be at 6-2. I'd feel really good, Evan. But I still think they've got an outside chance at that. But whatever. You got Louisiana Tech sitting there. And then to get the age, you'd have to beat 2 of the 3 SEC teams. But getting back on recruiting, the people ask me who can they flip. Well, these are the 4 in-state kids they've offered that have committed elsewhere. That's my point with these. Now, the reason I'm kind of grouping them together, you got Carius Kern from Marion. I'm sorry, going to LSU. Montario Elston and Omarion Robinson are going to are from Parkview. Man's going to OU, and Elston's going to Kansas State. Robinson's going to OU. Then Marcus Wimberly from Bryant. I'm sorry, from Bauxite. God, I need a do-over day. Sorry about that. Marcus Wimberly from Bauxite. I was just talking to somebody on the phone about Bryant. They were telling me how good they are, and they are. But anyway, that's a story for high school guys.
So that's another podcast.
Yeah, Marcus Wimberly is committed to OU as well. So 2 of those kids my point is, we're bringing these 4 up. I don't think at this point Arkansas is going to flip any of them. I really thought at first, for a month or 2, they had a chance to carry his Kern because he's committed to Arkansas a couple of times. He was actually committed to Arkansas. Wimberly was committed to Arkansas too for that point. I mean, he committed after a camp up here. But I don't think that Arkansas will get any of those kids now. I really don't. If something happened, OU's not having a very good season. If something happened, they didn't go to. If Robinson didn't go to OU, I think he'd probably go to Oregon over Arkansas. I don't think he's coming to Arkansas. I really don't. Now I could be wrong. Sam Pittman went and saw them play during the bye week. He went and saw the Parkview team, and they do have two players. We've had both of them on here from Parkview committed to Arkansas. So they've got teammates coming to Arkansas, and Sam went and saw all of them play during the bye week. They killed Hope that weekend or that Friday night. But anyway, I just don't think I don't feel good about any of those now, Evan. Carius was the one I felt the best about, but man, what I'm hearing now, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's a shame because I think he's the best player in the state of Arkansas in the 2025 class. I think he's the number one. You've got Grayson Wilson and Omarion Robinson and a couple other kids right up there as well. And then of course I love the receiver at Warren, but he's committed as is Grayson. But right now I don't think the news is good on any of those, and that's just the way it is. I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I don't think they'll go back on Wimberly at all. I really don't, because the way that went down. I just don't see that happening. I'm not saying he'd even want to come to Arkansas, but I don't see that one happening at all. I think they're still working on Robinson and Elston some. But I'm going to tell you, Kansas State's had a lot of success with small running backs, and they did a good job. They made Elston a priority, and they did a good job there. So, and with their success of the small running backs and just making him the priority from the get-go, I think they're in good shape there with him. But they've got 2 running backs on the team. The other one, Cam Settles, is coming to Arkansas. And I mean, they're both really good. So I feel like and then of course you got the Marklin Batten kid out of Atlanta, Texas, committed to Arkansas. So Arkansas is okay there. But that's just kind of giving people up, because those are the 4 kids that people ask me about in the state. And right now, my projection is they don't get any of those.
Yeah, and we
Like,
always talk, Otis, that you want to keep your in-state talent in state, but when you look at kind of the way that this team is constructed right now, like you've already mentioned, they're gonna go to a bowl game. Will they be 6-6 or 7-5? I'll lean more towards 6-6. I think 7-5 is a real possibility. Again, we'll talk
Mhm.
about all of that in a little bit coming up. Let's just stick on recruits for now. But to your point, right? Like you see this Arkansas team, you see the commits they have in 2025 and what they're doing right now. Sam Pittman probably off the hot seat again. It was really
Yeah,
important that they beat Mississippi State in Mississippi State. So you're going to have kind of that same coaching group from last year and this year to now 2025. So I think that's really important for continuity itself. But again, we'll talk about all of that in just a little bit.
yeah.
Let's stick on recruits and we'll talk about Logan Schramm, an offensive lineman. What do you got on him?
They got his teammate fullback Hendricks kid the other day committed to preferred walk on. Logan's player that I actually felt pretty good about when he visited, and even talked to him about when he committed if he committed to Arkansas about maybe doing it on this segment, and he was open to that, and I had a really good conversation. I felt good about Logan, but he's got some travel issues. Is I don't know how to explain it, but there's just the parents would feel like they'd have a hard time getting to see him play at Arkansas. So he's committed to TCU, but I don't think that one's over with yet, Evan. I really don't. Now, for anybody who don't know, Logan's 6'6", 328 from Bernie, Texas. Just man, he's one of the best looking high school offensive linemen I've ever seen, Evan. And like I said, I had a really good conversation with him. Got me, talked to him, felt good. And he's a nice kid, real nice kid, and a heck of a football player. But I don't think that's completely over with yet. I think if some things could, TCU's hasn't been the same since they went to national championship games. But they got there. So I mean that's more than most teams. They got there a couple of years ago. I just don't feel really good. I mean, I don't feel really good about him, but I don't feel that bad either. It's hard to explain. I mean, I'm on the bubble there
Right.
because I guess what I'm saying, I don't think that's over with yet. Whereas I do pretty much on the in-state kid with Logan. I think there's still. You ask me, people always last percentages, and I hate doing those things, but I'd say 80-20, he goes to TCU or doesn't come to Arkansas. But fact, you're still got some kind of. I do think they've got a chance, though. I guess the way to leave that. Just I do feel like he's got 16 offers, and probably more than that. Honestly, I know of 16, but he's. I tell you, like I said, he's a kid that could come in and play pretty quick. He'll play wherever if he goes to TCU, wherever he goes. He's not going to be one of those 3 or 4 year projects on the offensive line. He'll play early, Evan. He's good. I mean, and this kid's that size, 6'6", 328, that's legit. He looks like a mountain. I'm telling you, man, he's one of the best looking offensive linemen. I've done this for many years, and I've seen a lot of good offensive linemen come through here for recruiting and on the team, and he's one of the best I've ever seen. He's just best looking. I mean, he's really good. And he's a good player, too. He's a 4-star, and I think most of these kids are that I'm talking about today. These are all good prospects. These are not projects or something. But Logan, I feel like he probably won't come, but I'd give Arkansas 20% chance right now.
Look, so you're saying there's a chance. That's all I think
Yeah, and
Arkansas
I
fans
guess right
want
now,
to
if
hear.
you're looking at
Because I think your
what
point
is
is
really
great
the
on
first
his size and his athleticism and his ability to be a real mountain in the middle of that offensive line. But
Yeah.
again, travel's important. I know a lot of kids that we talk to want to stay close to home. It's really important for their family to get out there. So that's a whole other side
Right.
of the coin. And
And
I
that
think that's a really fair kind of assessment when anyone's looking at college, whether you're going to play Division I football, or you're just going in general to go to a college that your family can get out to easy and all of that. So I think you make a lot of great points there, and Hog fans will have to wait and see. You never know with the way that Arkansas's offensive line is trending with Eric Mateos and the upward
Yeah.
kind of trajectory that they're on this season. Anybody's in play, and especially maybe Taylor Green comes back next year. That's potentially hey Logan, you want to come and protect for Taylor, who could be maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year. We'll see if he comes back. I'm not saying absolutely anything, but let's move on. We got 2 wide receivers to talk about: Kelshawn Hitchcock and Waden Charles. What do you have on both of them?
Okay, Johnson from Hitchcock, Texas. He's committed to Texas A&M. Kelshawn is definitely not out of the question yet. I mean, he is going to visit Arkansas. He took an official visit earlier in the summer when everybody else did, but he's going to come back for the Texas game. And, if he was committed to Texas, you'd say he's just getting a trip to, well, I can't say free trip because it's not free. He has to pay for it. But you'd say he's just getting a trip to watch his future team, but he's committed to A&M. But he's going to be here for the Texas game. Now, obviously, that's what, a month away, so things
Yeah.
can change. He may never show for that, but that's the plan right now. That's all we can do is talk about as of no, October 27th or whatever it is. That's the plan to visit Arkansas again on an unofficial. But the fact that he is visiting and showing interest even in visiting at this point, I think that's a very good positive. I mean, like I said, he's been here on official visit, and if he comes back, it'll be on his dime or his parents' dime or somebody coach. But Kelshawn is, man, he's fast. He's only about 5'11", maybe 160, 170, but he's really fast. And I think the Hogs have an outside shot. I know he likes, Ronnie Fouch. Of course, he obviously likes Bobby Petrino at offense. I mean, who wouldn't? In the last 3 games, Taylon Green's really stepped up the last 3. I think that his in passing has improved night and day the last 3 games, and I think he's taking notice of that too. And so they're definitely in the right, somewhat of a chance. There again, I'll go back to, if you want odds, I'd say more like probably 25 or 30 to 70, 75 against Arkansas getting. But there again, like I said with Logan, they're in the hunt. They're still having conversations. They're still talking. And so right now, I guess, considering it's nearly November the 1st, about a chance is all you can ask for on kids.
Absolutely.
Especially committed to A&M, the team that's leading the SEC right now. I mean, very
yeah,
good
I
team.
want to cut in really quickly to that point on A&M and the fact that they looked really good last night. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Marcel Reed, absolutely the future of that program. So again, I think it's going to be a bit harder of a fish to pull out when, you're looking at Hitchcock with just the way that A&M handled business in the second half last night, because that's their future. It's not Connor Wegman. It is Marcel Reed. He looked phenomenal in that game. But to your point, like we said, there's always a chance with any of these guys.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's what you want right now. And sometimes, those kids decide, hey, it's great, but I spent my entire life here. I want to get out and venture, try something new. And so I think when a lot of these kids, when they made their decision, you made a point earlier that Sam was apparently off the hot seat. I think we got to make a point here that when a lot of these kids made their decision back in June, Kelshawn committed in July the 16th, Logan committed on June the 9th, and waiting on July the 3rd. When those kids made those decisions, Sam Pittman was being mentioned everywhere as the national media, as on hot seat, wouldn't be bad. And these kids were being told that. They were being told that, Evan. And so I think that's something else that has changed. All 3 of those committed in the summer. And so now they see that, hey, Arkansas is pretty good. I mean, you could eliminate one play from Oklahoma State, and they're 6-2. And I feel real good about my 8-4 then. And I know woulda, coulda, shoulda. I get that. But I'm just saying, these kids see a different Sam Pittman now than they saw when they made those decisions back in the summer.
Yeah, and I think we see a different Sam Pittman too, sitting in the press room, being more optimistic, hopeful for the future, and for obvious reason. Again, you take down a top 5 team in Tennessee at home for the first time since '99, when deja vu struck again a couple of weeks ago. And of course, we're going to be saying that. So, again, we'll talk about the Hogs in just a minute. I keep teasing to it. We're going to talk about them. Last one, Wade and Charles. You got a little bit on him as well.
Well, let me get one thing real quick on Logan and Kelshawn. They're both from Texas. A victory over Texas Longhorns, especially with Kelshawn, that would be big on those kids. Them and other kids from the Lone Star State and 2026 side. Wade and Charles is from Florida. He's committed to Central Florida. A couple of things there. They were chanting "Fire Gus Malzahn" during the game yesterday. We're unhappy with him. They've had quarterback issues. KJ got benched, I guess. They've not looked good at quarterback. They're not winning. They're losing. And he's got a very good friend. Maury Williams is coming to Arkansas, a receiver. So there's a lot of things working for Arkansas there. I really thought when this went down, they'd get Wade. But his buddy did too. That's committed to Arkansas. Kamari thought they'd get he'd come here too. So I definitely don't think this one's over, Evan. He is committed to UCLA, but even if he didn't come to Arkansas, I think he would go somewhere. I'm not sure he'll end up at UCF. He was committed to, I believe it was Miami to start with, and then he dropped them, went to UCF, visited Arkansas, loved it here, loved everything about him. But there again, I think he was worried about Pittman's future. And but right now, probably you could say Gus Malzahn's probably more on the hot seat. I like Gus. Gus plays football, so I'm not saying, but I mean, if you had to say, he's probably more on the hot seat than Sam is. I mean, they're
Yeah.
chanting fire him yesterday, and I'm not saying that for him. I hope they don't, but I'm just saying that's out there now, and so. As we said, a lot of things have changed since these kids made these decisions back in June and July. But probably on Waden, I'm going to put it 50-50 he doesn't sign with UCF. Now, it may, like I said, it may not mean he comes here, but I'm going to put it 50-50 he doesn't sign with them. I really do. I guess I could say I'll be surprised if he does at this point. Now, I may be dead wrong, and if I am, that's fine. But it's just hard to predict too much from now on these high school kids. But a lot of things have changed with UCF since his recruiting, and I just think that they still have a chance there.
Yeah, and again, we talk about all the time. We've talked about in the last 10 or so, 12 minutes about the hot seat and who's warm and who's cold. But at the end of the day, all that matters is what happens on the field. We can, as media, say whatever we want, right? We can stir up stories. I wouldn't say we can stir up stories. Who wants to do that and get out false narratives? But as media, we can only say what we know about the teams from what we've seen in a small portion of fall camp and spring camp, not in the games and what happens. And now when you get through these games, and Arkansas, I think, like you've said, they're a kicker away, and there's a kicker coming next year, Evan Noel, I believe, from Mississippi, who's 5-star. But like you said, they're a kicker away from being 6-2, and we're having a completely different story of this is a probably top 25 ranked Arkansas team, 2 losses right there in the college football playoff conversation, at least on the bubble a little bit. But you still look at the season, you're 5-3, you're probably going to beat Louisiana Tech in a couple of weeks. But again, we go back to yesterday. It was a big win over Mississippi State. I know a lot of people, even Courtney was saying this could be somewhat of a trap game for Arkansas, but they went into Starkville. They took care of business and sent a team that's asking questions about themselves at 1-6, now to 1-7, losing season, no bowl game for Mississippi State. And if you're an Arkansas fan, you're walking away from yesterday feeling really good about the offense. The one thing I'll say really quickly is, and Sam touched on it after the game, I know, Otis, you really want to talk defense, and we're going to get there in just a second, but I don't think Taylon Green was fully healthy in that LSU game. I think he was healthy enough to go, but you saw him use his legs early against Mississippi State. I think he ran for over 80 yards and had a really good day on the ground. So did another Little Rock guy in Braylon Russell, but this was an Arkansas team that was firing on all cylinders. Now, granted, it was against probably the worst team in the SEC, but that's what good teams do. They need to beat up on these bad teams, especially in conference. When this was a game last season, we're sitting in Razorback Stadium going, man, how is this 7-3? And now this year it was a lot more scoring than 7-3. It was 58-25. But it was nice to see Taylon Green being healthy, being himself again, because he wasn't really himself in LSU. And I think that caused kind of the downfall because Bobby couldn't use his legs and get him out and use that run game effectively in the LSU game. And then you make 1 or 2 mistakes in the third quarter like LSU did last night against A&M. And next thing you know, it's 34-10 and LSU's winning. So I'm curious, Otis, your view of the offensive side of the ball. What did you have to say? And then we'll talk defense.
No, I completely agree on Taylon Green. I think all the stars aligned for LSU in that Arkansas game. They're not 24 points better than Arkansas. That was the 16-10, but I've seen them play. They were very fortunate to beat South Carolina. They were very fortunate to beat Ole Miss. In fact, I said going into that game, going into the LSU game, I said Arkansas is 2 plays away from being 6-0. LSU 2 plays away from being 3-3. Right. I really thought Arkansas would be. And I think Taylon Green, very fair point you just made. I don't think Taylon Green was any more close to. He might have been 80%. I don't think he was close to 100. And I think just all the stars aligned for LSU that night. That was by far the best game they played this year. They lost to a so-so Southern Cal team, maybe like 12th in the Big Ten, way down the standings. I was looking at the standings this morning. LSU is, I think, that was a game. And look at it. All the games they played this year, that's the one game where Arkansas kind of really didn't play as well as they had, And they've had 3 turnovers in each of the games they've lost. Arkansas has 3 turnovers in each of the games. And but I think LSU just was very fortunate that night. I'm not trying to be Hugh Freeze and say if they played 9 more times, Arkansas would beat them. That's not what I'm saying, people. Yeah. I'll leave that to Hugh. But I do think if they played again, it would be a lot different. If Taylor's healthy, it would be a lot different game. I'm gonna tell you, Braylon Russell really adds a lot to
Hmm.
that team. I'm sitting there watching him this week, especially in the Tennessee game, I guess it was. I'm thinking, God, when that 4th and 1 at Oklahoma State, you sure would have liked to seen him get that carry, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, you'd love to have seen Braylon Russell get that carry. Uh, and I think Braylon is going to get to play a lot more now, and I think that's a big bonus for Arkansas. He's a difference maker. There's kids out there that are very good. We talk about kids when they're 4 stars, but I don't really feel like they're a difference maker. That Braylon Russell is a difference maker. All 4 stars, 5 stars are not created equal. And Braylon Russell is a difference maker. 1 star, 1,000,000 stars, whatever he
Yeah.
is, they're just not created equal. And he is a difference maker. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Some kids are really good players, but they're not a difference maker. But he is. And I'm proud to see him getting the touches. And, hey, as Sam said Monday, I believe, well, maybe it's Wednesday on the SEC talk, just because they're young doesn't mean they can't play or not good,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that. And
And the interaction that he had with Sam after the game where he said, I'm glad I didn't make you look dumb or whatever that was, excuse me
yeah,
if I'm botching that a little bit. It's always fun to see. And, again, we talk about these in-state guys staying in state. This is the
yeah,
recruiting report. We talked about Braylon last year, and seeing him have that success as the future of the Arkansas backfield is exactly what I think any Arkansas fan, any Little
yeah,
Rock fan would want to see. And it's really nice when guys that we talk about, a year or 2 years ago now are on this team and making a difference. And again, he held up a little on that 75-yard run. I think he tweaked the hamstring a little bit, but he'll be okay. And I
yeah,
just love the way that Braylon and Rashad Davinion really complemented each other.
yeah,
Davinion had a 98-yard game, almost a 100-yard
yeah,
rushing game. Braylon 175, and you add in Taylor into that mix again. Jaquin
yeah, he
Jackson,
is.
he'll get back, but you don't have to rush him back anymore, I think, because you
Yeah,
found that success and how to make it work with Davinion and Braylon Russell. So you're not overly in a rush to get Jaquin Jackson back because you kind of
yeah.
want to see Braylon Russell develop.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. If you can get through Mississippi this Saturday, if you can get through them without say Quinton doesn't come back or gets limited carry, then you got the bye week. So
Hmm.
you've got really you'd have almost a month for Texas then, Evan.
Yeah.
This week, Ole Miss will be 2 weeks. Bye week is one, and then it'd be almost 4 weeks before he played again. So he should be healthy then. And and if they could beat Ole Miss, go into the bye week at 6-3, I guess and come out, I mean, I still think, they got a promising season here. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the emergence and Rodney Hill probably will be back this
Hmm.
week. The emergence of Braylon and Rashad, who wasn't even playing earlier in the year except for the UAPB, and then maybe Rodney Hill and then Tyrell. I think they can get through this Ole Miss game and without Jaquinton. Now he may play, but hopefully if he does, it's limited touch because I'd like to see him get fully healthy for the first time since the season started and get back. But yeah, Arkansas's offense when Taylor Green, I just think I know he had to pass against LSU, got tipped. I get that. That was the turning point in the game there at 16. I get that. But other than that, really, the last 3 games, you haven't seen him. I was calling it aiming passes when he had open receivers like Luke Haswell. He would aim it and throw it in the ground, It
Yeah.
felt like he was aiming it, And now he's just throwing it. And I feel like he is really, Bobby Petrino's done a great job with him, especially the last 3 weeks. I just feel like he's a different quarterback. And, save that one interception to LSU. But the interception yesterday, I mean, Armstrong tripped and probably
Hmm.
shouldn't have thrown that ball to him, but whatever. I mean, it was just one.
Yeah.
They can survive an interception. They can't survive 3 turnovers. They proved that 3 times
Right.
in
And
3 games.
that touchdown pass to Has where you saw the Ryan Mallett fake to Chris Gregg a couple of
Oh, that
way
was
back
beautiful.
then. And that was just so much fun to watch. And I know a lot of Hog fans on Twitter had a lot of nostalgia of that. I love the ball fake. I thought that was beautifully done, beautifully executed, and worked just as well as it did against Georgia all those years ago. But really, excuse me, Otis, my only knock on this Arkansas offense yesterday was the fact that they were 0-7 on third down. They just couldn't get anything going there. But then they were 2-2 on fourth down. Again, when you win by 25, 32 points,
Mhm.
you can take a deep breath and say, they're going to get better because they're one of the best teams in the country when it comes down to third down conversion
Yeah,
rate. I think they
good
were,
all year.
29th or so. But let's talk a little bit about the defense before we wrap up. I know this was a big thing. A lot of people online, the tackling wasn't that good yesterday. You
No,
saw on
it was
that first
bad.
touchdown, Danico Slaughter missed a tackle. The other cornerback who was there, who I forgot where it was, didn't really dive, didn't really go after wide receiver, and you're just kind of asking yourself, this team has to clean up on defense. But you have a little bit of a different view on that. I'm curious what your take on Travis
Well,
Williams' defense was yesterday.
tackling was bad. I will admit that. But here's my point. Some people were talking about the points that Arkansas gave up, but if you look at that Mississippi State roster schedule, yeah, they're 1-7, but they've hung points on A&M, they've hung points on Georgia, they've hung points on everybody they played. I mean, they're putting points up now. Yeah, they may have the worst defense in the country. They're terrible on defense, but their offense, I'm telling you, man, it's not that bad. I mean, they putting points up on everybody they played. And so I mean, the defense, I'm not saying they played great. They didn't. We know that. But I don't think it was nearly as bad as some fans are acting like, because I think, kept hearing them say we shouldn't allow that many points. Well, Georgia probably wish they had allowed that many against them too. The bottom line is they won. And I think some of those points came after Arkansas may have took a deep breath and kind of let up a little bit, because they were up 41-10. Let's be honest. Nobody in the stadium didn't think that game was over. And that's when that's when Mississippi State came back, got the interception, I believe, and then got the touchdown, then got the 2 interceptions, and got another touchdown, got a 2-point conversion, got within 16, and then you felt like Arkansas kind of turned it back on again. So I think Arkansas 41-10 took a deep breath. And actually holding them to 10 points at that point of the game was pretty good, because they've hung points on everybody they played. So I don't think I thought the tackling was every bit as bad as you and everyone else has said. It was awful. But that's kind of the way in college football, though, with the people can't afford to get people hurt. And I watch games all the time, Evan, and you just see bad tackling. It's not limited to Arkansas, believe me.
Right.
I just see people bouncing off of tackles. I think it's because they're so limited in practice. You've got the players, and you can't afford to get a bunch of people hurt in practice. And tackling, to me, in football, is kind of like free throw shooting in basketball. It's kind of gone by the wayside, It's forgotten. Now everybody wants to see how hard they can hit somebody, or go out there and shoot threes or dunk it, So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like tackling is kind of a lost art now. But I see that on all the games, not all of them, but most of the games I watch, I see a lot of tackling. But yeah, it was frustrating yesterday. I made that comment during the game. It was frustrating watching them miss tackles, just trying to arm tackle and just misses them. But it's not limited arm. But I think people need to take a deep breath on the points they gave up, because they've been scoring points on everybody. And as I said, it was 41-10, and I can't think of any. I can't help but think Arkansas took a deep breath, kind of, just said, "Hey, this game's ours," at that point, and kind of let up a little bit. That's just human nature.
Absolutely. And you look at this game, Arkansas scored the most points on Mississippi State, and they didn't give up and the defense gave up, probably the second to least besides Texas points that Mississippi State scored in an SEC game. So should be fun to continue to watch as Arkansas moves through the season. Really quickly, last thing before we go, Otis, quick thoughts about Ole Miss.
I think Arkansas beats them. I really do. I'm not just saying that. He has not won. Lane Kiffin has not won in Arkansas and Fayetteville. Now Arkansas had never lost out of a bye week, and they lost to LSU, so it may be the year where those things all go out the window. But I really think I've watched Ole Miss play some. I got some of that game yesterday against Oklahoma. Watched them play LSU. A lot of the LSU, maybe almost all the LSU game, and watched them here and there when I have a chance. And I think they're really good, but I think Arkansas can beat them. I think the key is going to be the secondary is just going to play a little bit better than they have the last couple of weeks. And tackling needs to be better. I just don't know if it will be, because like I said, I see this as a trend all over college football. Teams are just not tackling well, and I think they're limited. I know Sam talks about the thud practices or the thud drills and stuff, but I don't know, man. It just seems like tackling is really not very good in college football right now.
Yeah, only time will tell. That should be a fun game. 11 a.m. kickoff next week on ESPN between the Razorbacks and the Rebels. Not to mention the homecoming/return to Arkansas for Ole Miss linebacker Chris Pupal. Should be a really good week. A lot of storylines coming up. But that is going to do it for your Arkansas football recruiting report. For Otis Kirk, I'm Evan Kamiko saying so long, and we'll see you right back here next Sunday.